everybody. I've been doing some chipping on the Leopard. I'll do a little demonstration on it, just on a couple little teeny pieces of the tank. There's really not much chipping on modern NATO tanks that aren't in the field. If they're in somewhere like Iraq or Afghanistan or places like that, well then yeah, they're pretty beat up. I mean, they're really pretty beat up. But when they're at home on Salisbury Plain, saying that, when the Americans are on exercise in Germany, they don't look after their Brahms, so you can get away with actually beating them up a bit. There's not so much chipping, it's more they're just bent. So yeah, so I've hardly done anything on this. The biggest thing you notice with it is on the bolt heads on the upper decks, they seem to get the paint knocked off by the crew walking across the top. So I've done that with a very small brush. I'll show you what I've used. Around the, I'm not sure if you can see this, literally around the commander's hatch. It's very, I mean, it's literally, you can barely see it, because if you look at the photographs, you can barely see it. Can I go further in? No. So do you just see it? A slight difference in colour. I've done a bit more on the machine gun ring, because the machine gun goes around on the ring. So there's a bolt head. I went to town on the come on the tow hook there, if you can see it, because I thought they might be a little bit more damaged and they wouldn't bother painting them that much because they'll keep using them. But yeah, there's really not that much on it at all. The biggest thing I've got to do really, I mean, I did these, because sometimes I replace the anti-slip panels and they come out flat black, completely different than the tank. Yeah, and if you can see, here's the bolts that I replaced, and you see that on pictures. Bright aluminium bolt heads. I might bring them down a little bit by putting a little bit of dark wash over them, just to make them blend a bit more. I mean, you can barely see it. Just along here, it's literally nothing. I've done a little teeny bit on that hatch there. I try not to be symmetrical, but I thought, well, people are going to be walking across this one as well, and if they've replaced these, they must have been used a bit more. Little teeny bit of chipping on the bins. It's a bit tricky to see. Just that, I mean, it's just the slightest little bit, sort of thing. Is it worth doing? Some chipping on the paint, and what you find on these Leopards is it's not the actual green that gets chipped, it's the sprayed on black and brown that gets chipped on the edges and corners. I did see one where it's quite grubby here, but I thought no, because then it's not in context with the rest of the tank. You can end up just getting carried away, then you look back at it and go, oh. So with tanks that are going home every night, I personally wouldn't chip them that much, because if you look at reference, you won't find that. If you see a Brahms in Iraq and it's been there, or a Challenger 2, then yeah, they're chipped and they're dirty and they're messy. They got bits hanging off them because they're in theatre. But when it goes back home again every night after an exercise, and then they even get washed off, don't they? And like I say with chipping, if you think about where you're doing it, because if you look at your car, most of the chipping is on the front bumper, isn't it? It's not on the back. So I was trying to think, well, where's the crew going to stand? Is there a route they get into the tank all the time at? Is there things their boots are going to catch? When they load up ammunition, will things get caught on the edges? It's like, I can't imagine there's going to be much chipping here. Unless it's smashed through a house, and well, I sincerely doubt it's going to be smashing through a house in Germany, unless the driver's gone mad. If this was, say, a Leopard in Ukraine that had been in theatre for 2 or 3 months, then yeah, I reckon it might have loads of chipping and scratching around here from pushing through trees and hedgerows and maybe going through a house. So yeah, I did the, you can't see it, this is mad. I'll put a load of lights on so you can see it. You can see it up close. The main thing we've got to do with this is the streaking grime. and dust grime sort of thing. And then some dust basically where the crew would walk around on top of the tank, and you know, where water would fall over it sort of thing. Anyway, what I use for the chipping is just this, is the main body colour, which is, you would use the main body colour, or the one that just about matches on this, to make it look like this two colours that have been sprayed on have been chipped off. And then a bit of NATO black and the chocolate brown chipping, which I've put more around the rear sprockets, and I'm going to do a little bit more of that with some sponge. So I can show you what I did there, and it's mainly on the sprockets. I've sort of done everything I need to on the tank, and I might do a little couple of bolts with silver. And to show you all the things I had to do, I'm just going to do it on that sprocket and the other sprocket. Okay, I'm not even quite sure. I mean, if you look at pictures of these, the wheels are pretty pristine. There's not much going on the Germans ones. There's a bit more on the Finnish ones, but the German ones, they're quite proud of it, and I think they really look after them. I think the crews do. I might be wrong about that, but the reference I found online, I really can't see much damage. So really, most of the stuff I've done is just tow hooks, the sprocket, because that always gets knackered on any tank, and any raised bolt detail on the top where the crew might walk in to gain access to the tank. I guess the driver walks up here, that's why I changed these. I did the slightest bit of chipping on the black here. I might do a little teeny little bit more there, because of boot footfall. But yeah, that's really all I'm going to do, sort of thing. So let me set this up so you can see me doing the chipping on the rear sprockets. Okay, and it's exactly the same process I did all over the rest of the tank. But really, with a modern tank, if it goes home every night, it doesn't need a lot at all. If it's in being used and it's not going home every night, then yeah, of course it's going to get damage. But it's like the thing, it's like if you see when people do World War II stuff, like a Tiger tank, and it's chipped to bits, it's got, you know, but it's got nothing broken on it. It's like its fenders are all intact, there's no damage and no bending, there's nothing missing. But it's chipped and it's weathered and it's faded. Well, it can't be, because it would have broken bits on it as well. It's like fading. I don't want to fade this too much, because like I say, it's the dust that's going to fade. There's not exposure to sun for too long. Anyway, look, let me just get the stuff out and I'll show you what I do with it. Right, so here we go. I've put those colours out: aluminium, NATO brown, NATO black, chocolate chipping, and Vallejo green. On the wheels, I'm only using the chocolate chipping, NATO brown, and the silver. And I'm going to carry on from where we left off last night. Where you see where the teeth of the sprocket, sort of thing. I'm going to use sponge chipping to kind of amalgamate that with everything else. The only thing on these tanks that you see in reference is basically the sprockets are a bit naff, and I think it's because, well, they don't repaint those and they get knackered again. So yeah, and what I've done is I've mixed up some of the NATO brown and the NATO black and the chocolate chipping into a more darker brown colour. To make it a bit thinner, I just use water. I don't use thin or anything, because you don't want it thick. I think with chipping, subtlety is the best policy. Alright, so I've just mixed it up into that colour. Okay, so it's a little teeny bit rusty looking as well, just a little bit. Let's zoom in. So I'm using a sponge that's sort of slightly angular. You dip it in the chocolate brown NATO black mix. The important bit is you clean the sponge on a bit of kitchen towel so that you don't, can I quickly show you so that you don't put too much paint on. You don't want too much of this. You just want it enough so it looks alright, but not too much. My problem is I always take too much off and then not have enough. So just try and unify where you've done the previous chipping. If you do that, it starts looking a bit more realistic. Because when it's big chips, there's always going to be little chips. And you can't do chips that small with, well, you can, but I can't. Oh, and if that happens, don't we? Rub it off. That's the beauty of proper acrylic paint. You can do it at Tamiya. That would leave a stain and a half. Right. Can you see what I was doing? So now it's unified the previous chipping that I did. So it doesn't look out of place. Yeah? Just turn the track round. And this is what I've been doing on the other bits of the tank. Alright, it's not, and there really isn't much on these. Honestly, there isn't. So if I can get... See, you don't want a lot. Well, I quite like that. Yeah, so and that's basically done. And the other thing I was doing on the tank, which I noticed, is that some of the bolts are quite bright. Like up here. You see? I might bring down a little bit with a wash, or when I put the streaking and dust on. But they're the only things I could really see in reference. I'm pretty much sure though, if this was in service somewhere, i.e. overseas, then it wouldn't be. So I'm just going to get, now we don't want, how am I going to do this? This is really hard to do this with the camera. Ooh. Oh well. And I might just do one more, but try and make it look, how about those two. A bit more paint. I need to get myself some new brushes. There we go. That's enough. I'm not going to do any more. Because you go, oh, then I'll do this one, then I'll do that one, then I'll do, and then you just start becoming symmetrical, and you don't really want that. Yeah. So basically, that's all I'm doing. But that's what I was doing over the whole tank. What I'm going to do is a little teeny bit, just the slightest bit of what I was doing with the sponge, just at the back. Here. Now it's honestly, that's it. That's what I'm doing. I promise you, they have barely any of that, and I'm not going to do it on the other side. Yeah, that's all it is. The main thing is, it's just these edges. It's the edges on the side of the tank that get done the rest of it. So look, that's all I've been doing, and there's not much of it, and that's all I'm going to do chipping wise on this. I don't see any point in doing anything else, because otherwise it would just start looking silly, and it's not looked after then. And most of these go back home every night after exercises and they get a wash down, don't they? Kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, that's chipping on this tank. So it's not much. I'll put it on one of the other videos, but that's what you need to do. I've not even used brush chipping, because it would be too much on this tank. It's just all sponge chipping, because it's just micro chipping that you do on these. It's pointless to even, in some respects, you might not bother. I thought you feel bad if you don't. Anyway, so that's it for that. Have a nice day. Right, I'm going to do some streaking on it now, to try and make it look a little teeny bit more dusty. That's all. A little bit more. A little teeny bit more worn, but not massively worn again, because it goes back home every night. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit. Let me just get this up. I'm doing, I use Starship Filth. It's just any colour that's kind of like manky. And then dust. Streaking dust, which is probably more of the key colour for this. So let me just put this on the stand and I'll quickly show you. So make sure you got some odourless thinner as well, so that you can get it off the tank. But because these are oils, it's much better than enamel streaking, because I can just completely wipe this off and it shouldn't do too much. So you've got to also think where the dirt and stuff would accumulate. And then get a bigger brush, put enamel thinners on it, dry it off a bit, and then fast downward movement to try and shape them. You basically want to just about see it. Just about see it. Nothing else. Because, yeah, that's all. You can probably do a bit more than that, but I just want it visible. Just. I don't want it anything other than that. On a more dirty tank, or more, you know, in service tank, then you can make it a little bit more visible, kind of thing. So that's that sort of action you got to do. Because this is Starship filth, it's not got the streaking brush. That's the only difference between these two, is you'll see that the dust one has a streaking brush. So it's literally really subtle. Hoping you can see that kind of thing. A little bit there, a little teeny bit there, a little bit there. Hopefully a little bit coming down from that bolt head here, where the rain would have caught it. The dust is going to be a bit more obvious, kind of thing. Anyway, let me crack on with this, and I'll show you. I'll show you it done. That's what you got to do. If I just put, I don't know if it's a bit dangerous putting dust on. Let me just wipe that. Sometimes the the oil brushes, see what I mean about the difference in the tip, come on focus, it's much thinner. So hopefully you can do a bit more with it. This one's gone a bit nuts actually. What you can do as well if you want to is decant some into your palette. But they should be smaller. So let me put, this might work well because I've got thinner on this already. Alright, and then again, so a quick downward movement. And it's just got to be, sort of, what's the point? But it's got to be barely visible. barely visible sort of thing. It'll be better to do it without the surface already being covered in enamel thinner kind of thing, because what you don't want to do as well is start fading the paint. And don't use any of this, if you've been using filters and stuff, don't do any of this work until those filters have really dried for 48 hours, because otherwise it will get very messy and you'll just take off what you've already put on. Well, let me carry on doing this and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Hi everybody, and this is with the streaking dry. It's very subtle. I'm really contemplating what to do with this, whether to weather it up even more. I've got to do the top deck. I normally use pigments and then use pigment fixer to stick it, or else it will just all come off. But I was contemplating using odourless thinner and one of the mud products, thinning it right down and using that, because when it dries it should stick a bit better. If you use pigment fixer it should be alright, kind of thing. So, and the other thing is, I know this is nuts and you wouldn't do this on a 1/35th model, but with these, when they get scratching through trees and stuff and bushes. So literally, if you get the end of a paintbrush, I don't know if you can see that, you can make scratching in the oil paint. And it's quite subtle, which is kind of what you want. If you don't like it too much, just run your finger over it and it just makes it a bit more subtle still. But you get little scratching lines, which I think makes it look kind of cool. Yeah, and this is all going to be on one video. Okay, so the streaking and the grime and the weathering, the mudding up stuff and dust. All right, so yeah, I'll be back in a tick.